When we talk about the power of authentic words, we step into a realm that carries far more weight than most people realize. Every human being, whether man or woman, has an innate ability to sense truth. It is almost like a radar that picks up the vibration behind the words that are spoken. You can tell when someone is speaking to you with honesty, and you can tell when someone is simply saying something to get a reaction. Women, especially, have this intuitive sensitivity very strongly. A compliment that is given without authenticity feels hollow, like an empty shell, and instead of building attraction, it creates resistance. But when a compliment is rooted in authenticity, it has the power to touch something far deeper than the surface. It has the power to reach into the heart, to move emotions, to create a moment of connection that lingers in memory. That is the true power of authentic words. Think for a moment about the times in your life when someone complimented you and you knew they genuinely meant it. It stayed with you, didn't it? Maybe it was a teacher telling you that you had potential. Maybe it was a parent recognizing a strength, or maybe it was a stranger noticing your energy. The memory lasted because it was real. It wasn't dressed up with manipulation. It wasn't designed with a hidden agenda. It was pure acknowledgement. That is what authenticity does. It plants a seed in the heart. The same principle applies when a man gives a compliment to a woman. If his words come from a place of truth, not performance, she will feel it, and that feeling becomes the foundation of attraction. Now, authenticity does not mean perfection. Many men believe they need to say the most poetic, polished, or movie-like compliment to make an impression, but that is not true. A compliment does not need to be flawless, it needs to be honest. A simple, "I love how passionate you get when you talk about what matters to you," can do far more than an exaggerated line about beauty, because it is rooted in something observed, something real. Authenticity is about seeing what is truly there and having the courage to speak it. That courage creates trust, and trust is magnetic. Another thing to understand is that authenticity cannot be faked. You cannot rehearse sincerity. You cannot disguise flattery as truth because the energy behind the words reveals the intention. If you are complimenting a woman because you genuinely admire something, it will shine through. But if you are doing it to get something back, the vibration shifts. Women are incredibly attuned to that shift. They can feel when you are giving to gain rather than giving to give. The moment it feels transactional, the magic disappears. But the moment it feels authentic, something shifts inside her. She feels safe, she feels acknowledged, and she feels a spark of attraction that is not forced. It is natural. Authentic words also carry depth. When you speak authentically, you are not just commenting on what is obvious. Anyone can say, "You look nice today." But authenticity pushes you to notice what others overlook. It makes you say, "There's something about the way you carry yourself that shows strength," or "I love how your energy brightens a room when you walk in." These are not lines you pull from a book. They are reflections of what you genuinely observe. And because they come from observation, they resonate much more deeply. She feels seen, not just looked at. She feels understood, not just admired. That difference is enormous, and it is the reason authentic compliments carry so much influence. There is also a certain vulnerability that comes with authenticity. When you give a compliment that is real, you are revealing what you actually notice and appreciate. You are not hiding behind a mask, you are exposing a piece of your perception. That vulnerability is attractive because it demonstrates confidence. It says, "I see this in you, and I am unafraid to express it." Women respect that kind of courage because it signals emotional maturity. It shows that you are not playing games, you are not posturing, you are being transparent. And transparency is rare in a world where so many interactions are filtered, rehearsed, and scripted. When a woman receives a compliment that carries authenticity, it touches her identity. She feels that it is not just her appearance being acknowledged, but her essence. Authentic words do not float on the surface. They dive into character, into energy, into the unique qualities that make her who she is. And that, more than anything, is what makes a woman fall. She falls not for the words alone, but for the truth she feels behind them. Authenticity transforms a compliment from mere language into an emotional experience. And once she feels that experience, it becomes unforgettable. When you look at the way most men give compliments, the majority lean on what is easiest and most obvious appearance. They will say things like, "You're beautiful," "I love your smile," or "You look amazing in that dress." Now, there is nothing wrong with acknowledging beauty. It can be powerful in the right moment. But here is what separates the surface level compliment from the kind that actually touches a woman's heart. It is about identity, not just appearance. Beauty is everywhere, but identity is unique. Any person can recognize someone's physical features, but it takes a sharper eye and a deeper presence to recognize the essence of who they are. Women fall for compliments that reflect who they are becoming, not just how they look in the moment. When a woman hears a compliment about her identity, it validates her existence on a deeper level. Think about it, her appearance is often complimented by strangers, friends, even social media comments, so those words, while pleasant, do not always stand out. But when someone says, "I admire the way you never give up when things get hard," or "you have a calmness that makes people feel safe around you," it speaks to her character. That kind of compliment acknowledges something she has worked on, something she values about herself, something that cannot be taken away by time or circumstance. Identity is lasting, appearance shifts with fashion, age, and circumstance. And because identity is lasting, when you compliment it, your words anchor into her memory with much greater force. The mistake many men make is believing that physical compliments are enough to create attraction. At best, those kinds of compliments create a spark of attention. At worst, they sound generic and predictable. But when you highlight a woman's identity, her courage, her intelligence, her humor, her creativity, you move from being another voice in the crowd to being the voice that made her feel seen. Women want to be desired, yes, but even more than that, they want to be understood. Complimenting identity satisfies that craving for understanding. It tells her, "I don't just see what everyone else sees, I see who you really are." And here is something most men overlook: women put effort into shaping their identities just as much, if not more, than they put effort into their looks. When she chooses to be compassionate in a world that can be harsh, that is effort. When she works hard on her career, her studies, or her passion, that is effort. When she carries herself with resilience despite challenges, that is effort. So when you compliment her appearance, you are recognizing something she was born with. But when you compliment her identity, you are recognizing something she chose, something she built, something she fought for. That is why the second type of compliment is far more magnetic. It validates her choices, her growth, and her values. It is also important to understand that identity-based compliments create emotional connection. Physical compliments may ignite a spark of attraction, but identity compliments create resonance. They create a feeling of, "This person understands me. This person values who I am beneath the surface." And when that happens, walls come down. She starts to open up because she feels safe to do so. She feels like she can show more of herself without fear of being judged only on what she looks like. That opening is where deeper attraction begins. It is where chemistry shifts from fleeting to lasting. When you recognize a woman's identity, you are also speaking to her future. You are telling her, in a way, that you see potential. Saying something like, "I love the way you light up when you talk about your dreams," not only affirms her passion, but also encourages her to keep pursuing it. That is powerful because it makes her associate you with progress, growth, and inspiration. She begins to connect the idea of becoming her best self with the presence of your words. That connection is not temporary. It stays with her because it goes beyond admiration into influence. Another dimension of identity-based compliments is that they show depth in the man giving them. When a man notices only the surface, it reveals that his perspective is limited. But when he notices what lies beneath the surface, it signals emotional intelligence. It shows that he pays attention, that he has curiosity, that he values substance. Women respect that depth because it sets him apart. Anyone can say, "You're hot," but it takes presence and attentiveness to say, "I admire how you always find a way to stay positive, even when life throws challenges at you." The latter is not just a compliment. It is proof of observation. And observation is rare in a distracted world. The truth is, every woman has layers, and the more you acknowledge those layers, the more irresistible you become in her eyes. Compliments about identity dig into those layers, and as each one is acknowledged, she feels safer to reveal even more of herself. This process creates intimacy without force, closeness without effort, because it is built on a foundation of genuine recognition. Once she feels that you see her beyond appearance, you stop being just another person in her life. You become the person who reflects her best self back to her, the person who reminds her of the qualities she most treasures in herself. And that reflection is what makes her feel not just admired, but truly valued. When you really look at the way attraction unfolds, one truth becomes clear: uniqueness matters more than volume. People are constantly bombarded with compliments, whether in person, on social media, or through casual interactions. And because of that, most compliments lose their power. They start to blend together like background noise. A woman can hear, "You're beautiful," or "You're gorgeous," dozens of times in a week, but those words do not always leave a lasting impression. They become predictable, almost automatic, like a script people are reading without much thought. But when someone notices a detail that others overlook, that compliment stands out. It cuts through the noise, and suddenly she feels that this person is actually paying attention. That single act of noticing something unique transforms the compliment into a powerful connector. The reason uniqueness is so impactful is because it carries a message. I see what others don't see. Every person longs for that. Every person wants to feel special, not just in general terms, but in the sense that their individuality is being recognized. When you compliment something that is unique, you are essentially holding up a mirror and saying, "This is what makes you different, and I value it." That kind of compliment resonates more deeply than generic flattery because it validates her uniqueness. It acknowledges that she is not just another face in the crowd, but someone who has qualities, habits, or expressions that are one of a kind. Consider this for a moment. If you tell a woman she has beautiful eyes, it may feel nice, but chances are she has heard it many times before. But if you say, "I love how your eyes light up when you're talking about something you're passionate about," that strikes differently. Why? Because now you're not just commenting on a feature, you're noticing a behavior, a moment, a unique expression of who she is. That kind of observation shows that you are paying attention at a deeper level, and people are drawn to those who actually notice them. In a world full of distractions, genuine attention is a rare and powerful gift. Uniqueness also matters because it reflects effort. To notice a unique detail, you have to be present, you have to listen, you have to observe. That effort is felt. It is not about being clever with words, but about being attentive with your perception. When a woman realizes that you are noticing the subtle aspects of her, how she phrases her words, the way she treats people around her, the energy she brings into a room, she feels truly seen. That kind of recognition goes far beyond the surface, and it is what creates emotional depth in an interaction. Another layer to this is that unique compliments tend to surprise. The human brain is wired to remember novelty, to hold on to experiences that break from routine. A compliment that is unexpected activates that sense of novelty. Imagine telling a woman, "The way you stay calm under pressure is something I really admire." She might not have heard that before, and because of that, it will stick in her memory. The uniqueness of the compliment creates an emotional anchor, a moment she will revisit in her mind. That anchor is what creates attraction on a deeper level because she begins to associate you with the feeling of being uniquely valued. It's also worth pointing out that unique compliments are harder to fake. Generic lines can be copied from movies, magazines, or social media posts, but unique observations require genuine interaction. You cannot compliment the way she tilts her head when she's thinking unless you've actually paid attention to it. You cannot admire her ability to make people laugh in tense situations unless you've seen it happen. That is why these compliments feel so authentic. They prove that you are not operating on autopilot, but are actually engaged in the moment with her. Engagement creates intimacy, and intimacy is the soil in which attraction grows. Uniqueness also carries a level of respect. It shows that you are not reducing her to broad categories like beauty or style, but elevating her individuality. It shows that you respect her enough to pay attention to the finer details. When you respect someone in this way, they naturally feel more connected to you because respect builds trust. A woman who feels respected is more open, more comfortable, and more willing to let her guard down. That openness is where real chemistry begins to flourish, and it all starts with the willingness to notice what others miss. At its core, complementing uniqueness is about depth. It is about seeing beyond the obvious and touching the hidden layers that make someone who they are. The truth is, most people crave this kind of acknowledgement but rarely receive it. They may receive plenty of surface level praise, but not enough recognition of their individuality. When you step into that gap and provide what is rare, you automatically set yourself apart. You become memorable, not because you are louder or more charming, but because you make someone feel uniquely valued. And in the game of attraction, that kind of impression is worth more than 1,000 empty words. Emotional connection is the lifeblood of any meaningful interaction, and when it comes to compliments, it is the invisible thread that transforms words into experiences. A compliment without emotional connection may sound pleasant, but it remains on the surface, like a ripple that disappears quickly across still water. A compliment tied to genuine emotional connection, however, penetrates deeper, embedding itself into the heart and memory of the person receiving it. Women are moved not just by the compliment itself, but by the emotion that rides beneath it. They can feel when the words are wrapped in warmth, sincerity, admiration, and presence, and that feeling is what ignites attraction and creates trust. Most men underestimate how sensitive women are to emotional tones. A woman does not only hear your words, she feels them. The vibration, the timing, the energy behind them all carry meaning. You might say something simple like, "I love how you think." But if you say it with genuine curiosity and admiration in your voice, it resonates differently. She feels that you are truly engaged with her, that you are captivated not by performance, but by connection. This is what makes the difference between words that vanish and words that remain alive inside her. To create emotional connection through compliments, you must first cultivate presence. Presence means you are not distracted, you are not rehearsing your next move, you are not trying to impress, you are simply here, fully tuned into her. When you are present, you notice details others miss, you hear the emotions behind her words, and you feel the energy of the moment. A compliment that comes from that state of awareness carries emotional weight. For example, telling her, "I admire how you speak with such calmness, even when you're nervous," reveals that you were not only listening, but also emotionally in tune with her. That in itself is connection, because it shows you are sharing the experience with her rather than merely observing it from a distance. Another way emotional connection enhances compliments is through vulnerability. When you allow yourself to express what you genuinely feel without trying to filter or control it too much, you create intimacy. Vulnerability makes the compliment raw and real. Instead of saying, "You're funny," you might say, "I love how you can make me laugh even when I'm having a tough day. It really shifts my mood." That compliment doesn't just describe her, it reveals something about you as well. It shows how she affects you emotionally, and that openness is magnetic. Women are drawn to men who can share their genuine feelings because it demonstrates both courage and authenticity. Emotional connection also creates a bridge of trust. When a woman feels emotionally connected to you, she feels safe. That safety allows her to open up, to reveal more of herself, to let her guard down. Compliments rooted in emotional connection accelerate that process because they are not just observations, they are acknowledgments of her inner world. Saying something like, "I love how much you care about the people close to you. It shows in everything you do," connects not only to her behavior, but also to her values. That connection to her inner self builds trust because it communicates that you see her heart, not just her surface. It is important to recognize that emotional connection thrives on specificity. General compliments can sound like echoes anyone could have said, but specific compliments show that you are attuned to her. Specificity means you notice the small things, the way her eyes soften when she talks about family, the way she stays focused when she's working on something important, the way her laughter carries in a room. Compliments that capture these specific details create emotional resonance because they reflect back moments she may not even have been consciously aware of. That reflection deepens her sense of connection with you because it feels like you truly understand her. The rhythm of timing also plays a role. A well-timed compliment has the power to amplify emotional connection. If she shares something vulnerable and you acknowledge it with appreciation, "I really admire how brave you are for opening up about that." The compliment lands with tremendous impact because it meets her in the emotional moment. Timing makes the difference between a compliment that feels mechanical and one that feels alive. When the timing aligns with emotion, the connection is undeniable. Another dimension of emotional connection through compliments is reciprocity. When she feels connected to the words you offer, she begins to give more of herself in return. It creates a cycle of sharing. Your compliment inspires her to open up, and her openness inspires you to notice more. This back and forth dynamic strengthens attraction because it turns the interaction into an exchange of energy, not a one-sided attempt to impress. It transforms the moment into an experience of bonding. Ultimately, emotional connection ensures that the compliment is not just heard but felt. A compliment without connection may spark a smile, a compliment with connection sparks memory, attachment, and trust. It creates a lingering feeling that she revisits long after the words have been spoken. That feeling is what she falls for, not the sentence itself, but the emotional experience wrapped inside it. Consistency builds value in every aspect of life, and when it comes to compliments, this truth is even more pronounced. A single compliment can spark attention, but consistency is what sustains attraction and builds trust. Many men make the mistake of thinking that if they pour out a flood of flattering words in a short time, they will impress a woman. But overuse dilutes power. It turns something that should feel special into something predictable. A compliment loses its magic if it is handed out every 5 minutes. What creates real value is when compliments are given with intention, with honesty, and with a rhythm that feels natural rather than forced. When words are consistent and authentic, they establish reliability, and reliability is one of the deepest forms of attraction. Consistency is not about repeating the same thing over and over. It is about showing a pattern of genuine acknowledgement. Imagine a woman who only hears praise about her looks when she is dressed up, but never when she is being herself in casual clothes. The inconsistency creates doubt because it suggests the compliments are tied to external factors, not her as a whole person. But if she experiences recognition in different contexts, when she is glamorous, when she is relaxed, when she is achieving, when she is struggling, then she begins to feel that the words are trustworthy. This reliability of expression gives the compliment greater weight because she knows it is not conditional. It is steady, and that steadiness creates value. There is also an element of pacing involved. If you compliment too often, the words lose their edge, but if you rarely offer them, they may feel absent or withheld. The art lies in balance. Compliments given consistently but not excessively create anticipation. They allow her to feel appreciated regularly without feeling smothered. Each compliment becomes like a note in a melody. When placed correctly, it contributes to a song that feels harmonious. Too many notes played at once become noise, but the right rhythm creates music that lingers in the heart. Consistency also ties into integrity. If your compliments are aligned with what you genuinely observe, and you express them over time in different situations, she sees your character reflected in them. For example, if you consistently admire her determination when she tackles challenges, and you say it not just once but on multiple occasions when she demonstrates it, she begins to believe that you truly see that quality in her. That repeated recognition reinforces her identity and deepens her attraction to you because it validates something core to who she is. It tells her that you are not just throwing out random lines, but that you are anchored in truth. Women often test the reliability of words. They listen not only to what is said, but to whether it is consistent with actions and with time. A man who gives a compliment once may be seen as charming, but a man who continues to give compliments over months, in different circumstances, is seen as genuine. Consistency proves sincerity. It demonstrates that your appreciation does not fade quickly, that it is not a tactic, but a reflection of ongoing recognition. This builds emotional security, and emotional security creates depth in attraction. Another aspect of consistency is timing in relation to her journey. When a woman is working on something important to her, she often feels unseen in the process. If you consistently compliment her effort, her growth, her persistence, she feels encouraged and supported. For example, saying, "I've noticed how much you've grown in confidence since you started this project," shows that you have been paying attention over time. That type of compliment has far more power than a one-off statement because it acknowledges progress. It shows that you are walking with her in her journey, not just watching from a distance. That ongoing recognition builds emotional intimacy and makes her feel that your presence adds value to her life. Consistency also prevents the compliment from being dismissed as luck or accident. When something happens only once, it can be seen as chance. But when it happens regularly, it builds a pattern that the mind begins to trust. If you compliment a woman's kindness once, she may feel good about it in the moment. But if you continue to highlight it in different scenarios, when she comforts a friend, when she supports family, when she shows patience with strangers, it reinforces the identity of kindness within her. That repetition builds confidence in who she is and makes her associate that confidence with your recognition. She feels that with you, she is not only admired, but continually validated. There is also the subtle power of restraint within consistency. The fact that you do not throw compliments recklessly, but choose the right moments makes each one meaningful. It signals discipline and thoughtfulness, qualities that women respect. A man who can pace his words shows he is not desperate for approval, but confident enough to let silence exist until the moment is right. Then, when the compliment arrives, it lands with greater force. It feels earned, not handed out cheaply. That balance of frequency and restraint creates a rhythm of attraction that grows stronger with time. Consistency ultimately transforms compliments into more than just words. It makes them evidence of character. Over time, she begins to see that your pattern of appreciation is steady, Your perspective is reliable, and your recognition is genuine. That steady reliability makes her feel secure, valued, and understood, and that feeling is far more powerful than any grand gesture or one-time flattery could ever create. Compliments are not just words spoken into the air, they are mirrors that reflect back to a woman the image she holds of herself, and in many cases, they reveal a reflection she did not even realize was visible. Every human being has an inner dialogue running constantly, filled with doubts, insecurities, hopes, and quiet affirmations. A compliment has the power to interrupt that inner dialogue and replace it with a new, empowering truth. When you give a woman a compliment that reflects her best qualities back to her, it is as if you are holding up a mirror that shows her the version of herself she wants to believe in. That mirror does not just make her feel good for a moment, it changes the way she sees herself in relation to you, and that shift is magnetic. What most people miss is that women, despite how confident they may appear on the outside, often carry doubts about themselves on the inside. Even the most successful, beautiful, or charismatic woman may wonder if she is truly enough. When you give a compliment that reflects her strength, her intelligence, her kindness, or her resilience, you are shining light into the parts of her identity that she may not fully embrace yet. For example, telling her, "I admire the way you stay composed when things get difficult," might be something she never even thought others noticed. That reflection becomes powerful because it affirms an inner quality she values but rarely receives recognition for. The compliment becomes more than admiration, it becomes evidence that she is seen in her fullness. This mirror effect is also what makes certain compliments unforgettable. When you reflect back to her not just what she already knows, but what she secretly hopes is true, your words carry a sense of validation that is rare. She might secretly hope that people notice her dedication, her compassion, or her creativity, but she may not voice those desires. When you give her a compliment that aligns with those hidden hopes, it feels like you are reaching into her soul and bringing them into the open. That creates a deep emotional resonance because it connects her private world with your perception. It feels intimate, and intimacy is the core of attraction. Compliments that serve as mirrors also shape identity. When a person hears the same reflection enough times, they begin to internalize it as truth. This is why your words can have lasting influence. If you consistently reflect her kindness, her courage, her ability to inspire, she begins to embody those qualities more consciously. She starts to see herself as the version of her that you have reflected back. That is powerful because she will begin to associate that elevated identity with your presence. In her mind, you are not just someone who notices her, you are someone who helps her see herself more clearly and more powerfully. That connection makes your words unforgettable and your presence irreplaceable. There is also a healing dimension to compliments as mirrors. Many women carry wounds from criticism, rejection, or environments where their efforts were overlooked. When you reflect back her strengths through your compliments, you are counteracting those old wounds. You are giving her proof that the parts of herself that were ignored or undervalued are, in fact, significant and worthy of recognition. This act of reflection creates emotional safety. She begins to feel that around you, she does not need to shrink or hide because you see her wholeness and affirm it. That sense of safety is one of the strongest forces in creating attraction because it allows her to let go of defensiveness and embrace openness. What makes these reflective compliments even more potent is when they highlight qualities that are not visible to everyone. Surface-level flattery is easy. Anyone can notice beauty or style. But reflecting something deeper, her patience when others are quick to react, her generosity in small gestures, her determination when nobody is watching, requires attentiveness. That attentiveness makes her feel truly seen, and when someone feels seen in ways others overlook, they naturally draw closer. It makes the connection feel rare and valuable, like something she cannot easily find elsewhere. Compliments as mirrors also foster growth. When you tell a woman you admire her courage in speaking up, it encourages her to be even bolder. When you compliment her creativity, it inspires her to share more of it. Your words act as reinforcement, nudging her to lean further into her strengths. In this way, you are not just reflecting her identity, you are shaping it. You are participating in her evolution, and she begins to view you as a positive influence in her life. That association deepens attraction because people are drawn to those who bring out their best selves. The beauty of using compliments as mirrors is that they create a cycle. The more you reflect her best qualities, the more she embodies them. The more she embodies them, the more she associates those qualities with being around you. The cycle builds on itself, creating a bond that is emotional, psychological, and even spiritual. It goes far beyond charm or surface attraction. It touches the level of identity where the most lasting connections are formed.